Welcome to this explainer breaking down the extremely high-stakes South Carolina GOP Senate special election. And the data that's really driving this race. We're looking at a political landscape that has just completely shifted. Right now, the entire political world is watching the Palmetto State, and for good reason. We've got a crazy tight timeline, a very crowded field of candidates, and some genuinely fascinating polling data to unpack. So, let's just dive right into the central question hanging over everyone's heads right now. Who is actually going to replace Senator Lindsey Graham? Because this isn't just about filling a seat, right? It's a massive test of political muscle, influence, and exactly what voters are prioritizing right now. To figure out where this race is heading, we really need to look at how this whole thing started. Section 1. A sudden Senate vacancy. It all started on July 11th. Following the totally unexpected passing of Senator Lindsey Graham from a tear in his aorta, the political landscape in South Carolina was just instantly thrown into a high-stakes transition. Governor Henry McMaster had to move quickly, obviously, to ensure the state kept its representation in Washington. So he appointed Graham's sister, Darline Graham, to temporarily fill that seat. But, that appointment was really just the opening chapter of a much bigger story. Section 2. The crowded contender field. That temporary appointment absolutely set the stage for an intense competition. The latest Emerson College polling data shows an incredibly tight battle at the top. You've got Congressman Ralph Norman leading slightly at 22%, and he's followed very closely by interim Senator Darline Graham at 19%. Then Russell Fry and Mark Sanford are trailing right behind them. But honestly, the most important number in this race isn't at the top of the pack. It's the 25% of voters who are completely undecided. In a crowded 9-person primary, that means a full quarter of the electorate is still entirely up for grabs. Absolutely nothing is locked in yet, and these candidates are aggressively targeting this massive voting bloc. Now, what's really interesting is the sharp contrast in strategy between our two frontrunners. It is your classic political matchup. We're looking at Ralph Norman's Freedom Caucus background and fiscal conservatism going head-to-head against Darline Graham's status as interim senator and her Trump endorsement. Let's break down the current frontrunner first. Congressman Ralph Norman, he represents the state's 5th congressional district, is pitching himself directly as this proven conservative fighter. He's leaning heavily on his background as a hardline member of the House Freedom Caucus, running on a really strict platform of fiscal conservatism. And to back that up, he's secured some major Senate endorsements from Senators Mike Lee and Rick Scott. Basically, he's signaling to voters, hey, I already have powerful allies waiting for me in the upper chamber. Meanwhile, Darline Graham holds that major incumbency advantage as the appointed interim senator. Plus, she comes with what is widely considered the ultimate nod in Republican politics, a personal endorsement from former President Donald Trump, who literally called her a true American patriot. But here's the catch. Our data reveals a super fascinating caveat. Despite the massive weight of a Trump endorsement, 53% of voters say it actually makes absolutely no impact on their decision. It's a huge advantage on paper, for sure, but the numbers show it might not be the automatic silver bullet we've seen in other races. This race also features some very familiar faces fighting for airtime. Former Governor and Congressman Mark Sanford is back in the mix, dropping some pretty great self-deprecating humor. He recently said, "I'm not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was." He's focusing heavily on tackling the national debt and reining in Congress's war powers. And then you definitely can't count out Congressman Russell Fry from the Myrtle Beach area. He's widely viewed as a rising star in the party. With the vote splitting so many different ways, every single candidate is desperately looking for that one breakout moment. Section 3. The empty debate podium. Okay, let's dive into a major upcoming event that could literally be the tipping point those candidates are praying for. Nexstar Media Group is hosting an exclusive live televised debate on August 4th down in Mount Pleasant. But the biggest story heading into this debate isn't who is going to be there, it's who won't be. Frontrunner Darline Graham will notably be absent. She's going to be in Washington, D.C. attending to official Senate business, so she is completely skipping it. And her absence is already making huge waves. Why? Because a staggering 88% of voters say this debate is important to them. Almost 9 out of 10 people. Leaving an empty podium like that gives her opponents this massive, totally unfiltered opportunity to court those undecided voters without any pushback whatsoever. Section 4. What the voters want. With that debate on the horizon, let's actually look at what the electorate is demanding from these politicians. When you ask likely Republican primary voters what is driving their vote, it's not even a contest. A massive 60% say the economy is the single most important issue. Nothing else even comes close. Immigration trails far behind at 19%, and healthcare is down at just 8%. So if a candidate wants to win, their messaging absolutely has to be laser-focused on economic concerns. But interestingly, voters are processing this economic pain with a lot of nuance. When asked specifically who to blame for high prices, they didn't just point fingers in one partisan direction. They're actually blaming both former President Biden and current President Trump, depending on the specific economic issue you ask them about. It really goes to show that voters are analyzing the situation with a highly critical eye. These candidates are going to need some highly sophisticated answers on that debate stage.
Section 5, the road to November.
All of this pressure we've talked about, it's totally compounded by a rapid-fire timeline. The stakes are high, but time is incredibly short. Early voting kicks off basically right away, running August 5th through the 7th. The primary election itself hits on Tuesday, August 11th. And because there are 9 certified candidates splitting up all these votes, it's highly likely that no single candidate gets the over 50% majority needed to win outright, meaning we are almost certainly looking at a runoff election on August 25th. Whoever manages to survive this intense, compressed gauntlet of early voting, debates, primaries, and a potential runoff, well, they advance to the final stage. The ultimate winner of this whole GOP process will then go head-to-head against Democratic nominee Dr. Annie Andrews in the November general election. So I'll leave you with this final thought for our explainer today. We've got a massively compressed timeline, a frontrunner tied up in Washington, missing a debate that 88% of voters actually care about, and a full quarter of the electorate still completely up for grabs. With all these volatile factors colliding in the next few days, who has what it takes to capture the momentum and cross the finish line first? Keep your eyes on South Carolina, folks. This is truly anyone's race.